Okay, today we're going to be talking about circles. We're going to be talking about three different things. We're going to find out what a circle is, what the radius and diameter are, and how do we find them. First, we need to figure out what a circle is. A circle is the set of all points in the plane that are a fixed distance from a given point. That given point is also called the center. So, if we look at a circle here, this, which we normally think of as a line, is actually a lot of different points that are all equal distance from a given point, which we call the center. Okay, so now that we know what a circle is, we're going to be talking about the radius and diameter. The radius is the distance from the center of the circle to a point on the circle. So like we said before, this line is actually a lot of different points. So the radius is the distance from this point in the center to a point on the circle. Okay, so that is the radius, and we can also use the letter R to represent radius. Next, the diameter is the distance from one point in the circle, over here, to another point in the circle, which crosses through the center point. So if we have a line going from here through the center point and to another point on the circle, that is the diameter, and we can use the letter D to represent diameter. Now, if there is a line that goes from one point on the circle to another point on the circle, like this one right here, but it does not cross through the center point, that is not the diameter. It is just a line that goes from one point to another. Okay, so going back to our radius and diameter that we have on the sheet over here, we're going to figure out how we can find the length of these two if we are given one. So, I'm going to first give you a formula and then we'll figure out why this formula works. The formula that we're going to work with is 2r, which is radius, equals d. Okay, so if you see that formula, 2r equals d. Okay, so if we're given r is 2 inches, then we can plug it into our formula. So we have 2 times r, which is we said is 2 inches, equals d. And we know that 2 times 2 equals 4, so the diameter would be 4 inches. Now let's figure out why this works. If we look back at our picture of the circle, we see that the diameter is really just 2 radiuses. So if I draw another radius, going from here to the other side of the circle, and connect it with this radius, it's very clear that this is a radius from the center point here to the outside of the circle, and this is a radius from the center point here to the side of the circle. But it also looks exactly like the diameter that we drew right here. So it's easy to see that this r plus this r is equal to this d. So if we know that r is 2 inches, and then this would be the same distance because all the points are equal distance from the center, this would be 2 inches also. So 2 plus 2 equals the whole distance across the diameter, or across the circle, which is the diameter, and that would equal 4 inches. So, after we have that, we can also find the radius if we're given the diameter. So say the diameter is 6 inches long. Then we can plug this into our formula. So we can have 2r equals 6, because we said the diameter is equal to 6 inches. And then we can solve our equation by dividing the 6 by the 2, because you have to divide from both sides. So r equals 3. That makes sense because if this whole thing is 6 inches, and we want to find half of it, we would divide it by 2. Okay, so let's go over everything that we talked about today. First, we talked about what a circle is. So here's the definition of a circle. It's the set of all points in the plane that are a fixed distance from a given point, which we talked about is the center. Then we figured out what a radius is. So the radius is the distance from the center to a point on the circle. So this line right here is the radius, and we represent that with r. Then we talked about the diameter, which is the distance from one point on the circle to another point on the circle, which crosses through the center. So this line right here is representing the diameter, which we represent with the letter d. Then I gave you a formula which describes, or which you can use to find the radius and diameter if you're given one of them. So the formula is right here. It's 2r equals d. And we tried and plugged in a number, and then we figured out why this works. So it works because the diameter is actually just two radiuses facing opposite ways. So this is a radius right here, and this is a radius right here, because it's going from the center to the point in the circle, and it makes up the diameter because it is a line that goes from one point in the circle to another that crosses through the center. Okay, so now that you have that, you'll be able to find the radius and diameter of any circle as long as you're given one of the variables.